Hey there, welcome to Bloomerang TV. Thanks for tuning in. It's a Monday morning, and if you are a small shop fundraiser, you definitely want to keep watching this episode because we're going to have some really good advice for you. And I'm excited to introduce today's guest. She is Ligia Peña. She is the Director of Development over at the MOSD Foundation in lovely Montreal. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for being here this morning.
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
So before we launch into it, tell me about the MOSD Foundation and all the stuff you do there, all the great work you do.
The MOSD stands for the Montreal Oral School for the Deaf. So we're an oral school that basically teaches kids who have hearing loss to listen and speak so they can eventually integrate into the regular neighborhood school.
Very cool. Very cool. And you're a fundraiser. I run into you at events all the time. It's always fun to tweet with you and email with you. Small shops is kind of your thing. Would you kind of consider MOSD a small shop, or kind of what's your experience there with those kinds of organizations?
I definitely consider the MOSD a small shop because I'm alone. I head the foundation, and the way I define a small shop, see, everybody has different definitions. I usually look at it more from a capacity perspective. So how many fundraisers are there, or how much money is being raised? So usually it's, at least in Canada, we usually go by about, if you raise less than about 1.5 million or $2 million. Yep. And that's definitely our case here at the MOSD. But a clear definition of a small shop has yet to be defined by the sector.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I'm alone too. I'm a single marketer at a small shop, for profit. So I know what that's like, at least a little bit. So small shop fundraising, how do you know if you're getting a little off track? If your fundraising plan has been executed, but maybe the dollars aren't running in, or you just kind of feel a little weird about how things are going. What are some of those like red flags or warning signs when maybe your development plan isn't sort of performing or operating the way that you had envisioned or intended?
Well, there's different indicators. One would be you as the fundraiser. Oftentimes it'll be very personal and physical, in the sense of feeling tired, feeling uninspired, uninspiring. It'll be things like that, because you're just, I guess at one point it just sucks the energy out of your life, and you just don't have the same drive and mojo that you used to have at first. So that's one first red flag. Other ones is where people are just not as excited to fundraise with you. So your board, your staff, your colleagues, etc. And then the last thing would be your donors, that they're probably not responding as well to your appeals and to your asks as they once used to. And so that's when you got to say, all right, let's take a step back, perhaps sleep a little bit, yeah, and then look at the big picture. Take a step back and really look at the big picture. In small shops, we often tend to get really bogged down into the weeds of like the doing, produce. And we don't take enough time to take a step back and reflect and breathe and evaluate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a key thing.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad you brought up the sort of physical aspect of that, because it's easy to focus on, we're not hitting our goals, the metrics aren't there, because that's sort of easy to see and define. But that fatigue and that anxiety, like, that's a real thing. What are some ways that you can maybe tackle that issue first? Because it seems like that needs to happen or be corrected before you can actually shift and see what's happening on the actual fundraising side. What are some ways that you can kind of reinvigorate yourself or pump some energy into what you're doing?
Well, the first thing would be, if you haven't taken your vacation, go take it.
Yes.
I say this as I'm the one that still has not taken all of her last year's vacation, and I'm absolutely exhausted. But yeah, that would be the first thing. Honestly, it seems as simple and silly as that, really. If we don't, self-care is so important, and I think that could be even a topic for another, a whole different discussion. But fundraisers, we're terrible in the self-care department, that you know, we're so driven by the work and the people we're helping, but we also tend to forget about taking care of ourselves. So what I try to do when I'm starting to feel that way, but that I know I can't take time away, so I'll go take an evening off or an afternoon off, and I'll go to the spa, treat myself to a massage, you know, do something that makes you feel good. This past weekend, getting together with friends, fundraising friends from all over, and having a great fun time, you know, just to shake it off and get your mind out of the work environment. So that's one thing, and taking the time off is fundamental. And then just come back, when you feel re-energized.
All right, so you take your vacation, you're feeling good, you get a mani-pedi and a massage and all these great things, which you deserve, by the way. And I agree, my wife's a fundraiser. I mean, I see it at home as well. Just there's sort of this like martyr syndrome that, you know, you can't take any time off and you can't take time for yourself, and it's bad. But let's say you fix that, you know, you're feeling good, you're feeling re-energized. Now it's time to kind of turn towards, hey, the nuts and bolts of the plan, you know, doesn't seem to be working. What can you do? Should you totally blow it up? Maybe fix a couple things? What can you do if those donations aren't coming in?
I would say the first thing you could do is look at your metrics. So look at let's take your DM, for instance, and look at your metrics. Do you have what's your attrition rate? Do you have a lot of lapsed donors? Maybe they can be ones that you go back, you know, perhaps look at anyone who stopped giving to your organization in the last 3 years. And send them a "why have you forsaken us" kind of letter, or "this is what we've been doing since your last gift, give again." So that's a good way to re-infuse your program, and also to do acquisition, but internal acquisition, you know. Look also at your first gift retention rate. Are you getting a lot of first gifts? But if they're not giving again, that's a missed opportunity. So go back, give them a call, you know, and say, "Hi, thank you so much. Would you like to make a second gift or become a monthly donor?" These are very small things. And when you're in a small shop, in my experience, all the small shops I've worked at, I've had a much closer relationship with donors than when you're in a big shop.
Yeah,
because you don't have such a big pool, right?
Yep. Yeah, you anticipated my last question. I was curious, like, what are those differences between a small shop and a large shop? Because it seems like small shops, maybe this is a bigger problem, but they also have some advantages, like what you just said, the small pool of donors, you know, maybe have more close personal relationships. Is this something that big shops also go through, or is this sort of unique to small shops in your opinion?
I mean, I've worked in some big shops, and from what I remember, this was earlier in my career, I would know some of our donors, but usually they were the big donors. And that's great, you know, you need those. But in a small shop, I could say I recognize most of the names because I don't have 20,000 active donors.
Right.
I probably have about 700 or 800, and I may not know all the names, but when I see it, bam, I remember they gave last year or the year before, et cetera, et cetera. I know a little bit about their history. Something else that I often recommend, and this is perhaps one of the best practices, the best ideas as a best practice, is to call every donor after every single gift.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always feasible, and this past year was very, very difficult for me here. So it was very difficult for me to be able to pick up the phone for every one of them, but I picked up the phone for the ones where I saw that either they had not given in a long time or they give repeatedly. So, you know, if you can't do everybody, because you know, at the end of the day, we only have 8 hours in a day and 40 hours in a week, sometimes even put in even more hours than that. We just can't get to everybody. But identify the ones you can call, you know, like calling those first-time donors and welcoming them to the family, you know, sending them a small survey. How did they find out about your organization? What kind of programs are they interested in? So then that gives you a lot of information. My first year, I made sure that everyone got a phone call, and what that did is not only did I get to know the donors and what their motivations were, but it also enabled me to build a prospect list for legacy giving, for bequests. So now I have a long list of names that I figured if they answered the call at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they had an older voice, they're retired. They're in that group, right?
Yep.
So that's a good way to, another good way to invigorate your program is by getting to know your donors better, then you can offer them other ways to give. So Absolutely. If you haven't thought of doing bequests, a small shop can do bequests. If you can do planned giving in a small shop, just offer them the opportunity to give a gift in their will. It's easy, and that's it.
Yeah, and it might actually be easier for you than if you were at a bigger shop because you have those close relationships, like you said.
Precisely.
Well, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Another thing is, start with your board as well. Boards can also get a bit stagnant. So, are you getting 100% participation? And if not, do an exercise to get them invigorated as well. This is an idea that a friend of mine just suggested, and this was an idea generated by Andrea Kilstead. So I want to give her props for the idea. I'm not stealing her idea, but the exercise she does with board members is she asks every board member to privately write on a piece of paper how much they gave to the organization. And then she asks them to imagine what would be a big gift, something very significant that they could give to your organization, and then have a discussion about what it would take for you as the fundraiser of the organization of the board that they serve on. What would you need to do in order to get that gift, and what would you need to do after the gift? Very cool. That kind of helps them to get re-engaged, and then, hey, even turn into a big gift.
That's a great exercise. I may steal that for a nonprofit I'm associated with, actually. I love it.
Yeah. So there's a ton of other things, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is awesome advice. And I guess maybe, Ligia, one way we could finish is, if you were talking to a fundraiser who was feeling a little run down, perhaps a little out of energy, what's one sentence or one phrase you would say to them to kind of get them back on their feet and rocking and rolling at their small shop?
Talk to your superior, whether it's the director general or your chair. Talk to them about how you're feeling and ask them for help. So first of all, ask for your friends or fellow fundraising friends to support you and to help you through it, because you need that outlet. And go take care of yourself. Go take some time off.
Yep.
Whatever the case may be, whatever makes you feel good, whether it's going to sit on a dock and reading or knitting, or going to play a football game, whatever makes you feel good.
I love it. Ligia, this was awesome. You need to take a vacation day too. You should burn a vacation day this week for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at a day this week. And also, I'll be expanding on this on November 18th. I'm giving this webinar through AFP.
We will post a link to that. So send me a link. We'll post a link to that. And how can people find you online as well, on Twitter and all that good stuff?
On Twitter, my Twitter handle is @Ligia F. Peña. So Ligia F as in Frank, Pena.
All right, we'll link to all that good stuff. And attend this webinar because it'll be really good. She'll give you some good advice. She'll expand on the things she said today. Well, this was great having you. Thanks so much for being here. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you for watching. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll have another great episode for you. And you can watch all of our old episodes too. You don't have to just wait for the next one. Just click on the Bloomerang TV tab right here on our website, and you can watch. This is our 51st episode. So there's 50 more episodes that you can watch, and they're all really good, I promise. So we will catch you next time. We'll talk to you again soon. Go take a vacation day, okay?